I spent 7 years in prison. For my good behavior, I got a commuted sentence. On the day I was out, I got a phone. I received several unfamiliar calls. From some bosses I had worked with before. They tried their best to keep me working with them. Some offered me 100,000 a month and 20,000 per month with a car.
Most of these calls came from two places.
Panjiawen in Beijing, Shanyang Street in Tianjin. I thought about it. I still refused them. When I started this job was a mistake, even if I got rich overnight. But I also paid a price. 7 years passed, from a fair-skinned young man to a 30-year-old man with a beer belly. The girls I met back then, and now their children can play with soy sauce. I have no family, alone and helpless. I finally chose to go to Dali. I bought a small store by the Erhe Lake and opened a small shop when there's no business. I would walk by the sea and enjoy the sea. My life is quite leisurely. The address of the small supermarket is Kangst Road, next to Lemert. If friends want to come, I'll offer you tea. Didn't we discover the ancient Shu civilization recently and unearth the gold mask that shocked the country? Actually, my way to get rich is somehow related to these things. It's related to two words, antiques and tomb robbing. A few years ago, Ghost blows out the light. The movie and TV series Golden Eyes were popular. Now that I'm free, I will also write about those things in this line. I haven't seen the Yunding Palace and Kindling Tree. I don't have golden eyes, but I entered the antique business. I have seen them with my own eye. Many things that ordinary people can't. Let's start from the beginning. I was born in a small mountain village in northeast China, next to Mohe. It was freezing in winter. My grandma raised me. I never met my parents, and I didn't want to ask who they were. As the saying goes, I was very naughty as a child. I didn't listen to teachers, and my academic performance was poor. I was always at bottom. The National Poverty Alleviation, the village provided me with subsistence, which was more than 80 yuan, and there was also an orphan subsidy, with a subsidy of over 100. My family was struggling. At that time, the treasure hunt program on CCTV was, I was very fascinated. Those bottles and jars that people didn't care about, but experts said they could sell for tens of thousands. Antiques could be exchanged for houses. I always lied to my grandma, saying the school asked to buy study materials. My grandma gave me money, so I went to the bookstore to buy them. Books about antiques. The first book I remember reading was 50 Shares. It's a really thick book. Equity is copper coin. It's called Ziaiqian in our place. This book opened my eyes, and I became obsessed with antiques. I rummaged through our house, and I tricked my classmates not to read, at a price of 50 cents each, asking them to steal copper coins from their homes and sell them to me. I saved money to buy. I never ordered meals in the cafeteria. Later, I sold a bunch of textbooks for 7 yuan. I was too bad at study. The teacher just kept sighing, saying that this kid was doomed. If I don't study hard, I would be a cancer in society. I was dismissive of the teacher's words at that time. I had a dream of getting rich. Even if I became a cancer, I would be a rich cancer. When I was 18, my grandma had an accident while shoveling snow in yard and accidentally broke her leg. The medical and surgical fees added up to over 3,000. Our family situation, we couldn't even afford 600 yuan. I was deeply insiang. My grandma was lying on the kong, covered with a thick quilt, and she would cry at night. My aunt ran several farmhouses in Mohe, Snowtown, and she was doing well. I went to my aunt's house to borrow money to buy medicine, although on the surface, didn't say anything. But once, I overheard my uncle-in-law calling me a jinx, and said our family was poor, saying the money lent out was gone forever, and asked my aunt to have less contact with us. That winter night, I sat on the stone alone for 3 hours, although I was well dressed, but in Mohe with a temperature of minus 30 degrees. It was useless. I was young and rash. The words of relatives shattered the self-esteem of a young man. Was completely shattered. I clenched the borrowed money. I swore to myself that I would become successful. Later, I dropped out. Strictly speaking, I didn't even have a junior high school diploma. I'm a primary school graduate. 3,000 yuan. Except for the money for grandma's surgery, there was 753. I secretly kept this money. With this over 700 yuan, I collected copper coins. I also went to other villages to collect porcelain and silver dollars. Rural people only think silver dollars are valuable. They don't know much about bottles, plates, and porcelain, and don't care much. I read books and watched appraisal programs. I gradually developed some basic eyesight. I paid 100 yuan. I bought a pair of Yanglin Featherbrave bottles for less than 200. I bought some Min Chao Fu Shi NV2 jars.
I bought 3 blue and white bowls from the Qing dynasty.
Unfortunately, all 3 bowls have not well preserved, with cracks. I also saved a small bag of copper coins, about 200 copper coins, mostly from the Song and Qing dynasties. Among them, Dao Guangshu, Qianlong, Wang Song, and Yuan Feng are the most. These coins are in large supply. I knew they weren't valuable. The most satisfying thing for me were 3 very good quality Yongzheng coins. I knew Yongzheng Tongbao was valuable, but I didn't know exactly how much they were worth. After buying these things, I spent over 500. I had 240 yuan left. The average monthly salary was just over 300. I had a good relationship with a female classmate. She helped me out and lent me to large 30-inch suitcases, including 11 pieces of porcelain and a small bag of copper coins. I carefully wrapped them in quilts to prevent them from breaking. Finally, they were filled with 2 large suitcases and a backpack. My grandma didn't understand my behavior, saying I wasn't doing my job, and said she had raised me in vain. My aunt also knew about it. Most people in the village were pointing at me behind my back. I was snubbed, and humiliation and misunderstanding. On the morning of the 17th day, I left Mohe with the things I collected. I thought that people in Beijing were the richest. Of course, I would sell the antiques to Beijing people. Besides, I have a deep desire for Panji. I had long been yearning. There is no direct train from Mohe to Beijing, so I took the train to Siping first, then from Siping to Beijing West.